And we know that in Kenya, general elections are characterized by heightened political fervor and providing fertile ground for the proliferation of misinformation and disinformation. And both actors within and outside the country deploy false narratives to sway public opinion. Cambridge Analytica. And you know what went on in America? The role of Russia in disinformation and misinformation during elections. Who tells you we are not next? The European Union Election Observer Mission final report in the 2022 elections pointed out that online space was distorted by extensive and sophisticated disinformation campaigns targeting multiple election stakeholders and largely seeking to undermine public trust in the electoral processes through repetitive attacks on the IEBC and its members. And you know that after the, during the petition for the presidential election petition 2022, judges took a lot of flack, myself included. 9 Twitter accounts were opened in my name. 9 Facebook accounts were opened in my name, including one which had the picture of Vera Sidika. Why they chose Vera, who I don't know, I don't know. But if you go to Facebook, I've tried to remove all others, but if you go to my Facebook account, just type on Facebook Isaac Lenaola, Vera Sidika will appear very buxom-like, and you can see I don't have much of a waist, so we have no commonality. And the effect really is that it is the intention is to threaten, to intimidate, and to ensure that the judgment of the court goes a particular way. And that's not just myself, but also judges of the court. Hashtags were extensively used by parties to push narratives, create trending topics, criticize opponents, and spread disinformation campaigns. In one of my social media pages, what they would do is they would post as if it's me who has posted. And then now they post, they populate it with attacks on the court, attacks on me, in ways that I would be very, very surprised that they did. So in 2022, and certainly in 2027, there was a significant increase in disinformation and hate speech online, circulating on various media social platforms and across all the other platforms. Responses by key stakeholders on these things were very, very poor. The role of the National Council on National, what is Kobia's outfit called? Cohesion and integration was zero. They took too long. IEBC was busy conducting the election or organizing the election. IEBC similarly had difficulties managing the language of social media. We also know that no reports of warnings, arrests, or investigations relating to such problematic content were made, and we know that in fact very few were ever arrested for those things. I had in my paper the legal framework for all these things, the Constitution, the Defamation Act, the Penal Code, the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. But I thought I should probably speak about one case which is important around that question, which was the Bloggers Association of Kenya versus the Attorney General. The attempt was to declare the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act unconstitutional because the bloggers were saying you are limiting our right to expression and that whatever we say should not be limited. And the court found it difficult to agree with them, and that's an important discussion we must continue having. Someone spoke about deepfakes, robotics. You may wish to know that the Kenya Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Society Bill 2023 has been written, but is yet to be tabled in Parliament. I don't understand why our Parliament, and by the way, I'm one of those judges who is not limited in expressing my mind. So you not expect me to say Parliament has done wrong, the President has not done. I speak my mind because I don't understand why, for example, we are busy passing legislation very quickly on other subjects that are politically important, but we don't look at what is extremely important for this country. The Electoral Commission. How can a country like ours stand on its feet if it does not have an Electoral Commission? Elections are in 2027. This is 2024. When will this commission be prepared? And where is the legislation that the Supreme Court has said over time, write a law on this, write a law on that, prepare yourselves in advance. And then in 2027, suddenly, our courts are inundated with petitions, striking out parts of legislation, saying they are unconstitutional, and then when the courts don't make decisions in 24 hours, you say the courts are the problem. We are not the problem. Why is Parliament not writing these things now? If we write these laws in 2024, by 2026, the Supreme Court has settled. But if you write them in 2026, they'll come to us in 2029. So 2027, we shall continue struggling with bad legislation, which does not speak to the time of the election. Why do you blame the courts? Someone also spoke about deepfakes. And I don't know whether it was spoken to in detail, but all I shall say is that deepfakes is the next horizon of threat. We in the courts must therefore be prepared to know how to deal with deepfakes. Are our laws clearly appreciative of deepfakes? Are we as judges well trained to know the difference between deepfakes and reality? And so the Law of Evidence Act speaks to things that were happening in the 60s and 70s. There is no law around deepfakes. But nobody's speaking about the need to have laws about things like deepfakes, and for judges to be trained on deepfakes. So in my paper, I've tried to, and when I circulate it, you'll see what I've tried to do. I've tried to show how we can use existing legislation, like the Computer Misuse Act, to manage the reality of deepfakes. We have gone a bit in terms of generation of electronic evidence, but how do we address the reality of deepfakes? My paper was really about the next subject, which is this. How does digital media, including AI, affect judicial independence? We know that judicial independence requires that judges must make decisions based solely on the law, facts of the case, free from external influence. But social media, by amplifying public opinion, can indirectly challenge this principle. A clear depiction of social media influence was seen after the pronouncement of the 2017 nullified elections. Those of us in the majority of 4 who nullified the 2017 election suffered incredible social media barrage. And this brings to the question, how prepared are judges to suffer through such attacks? I recall, for example, the hashtag justice for sale, hashtag we shall revisit, and these things, judges are human. If at my age you're told we shall revisit by you know who, you start wondering, is this the time that I cross to Ethiopia, which is nearer my village, and start herding my cows there, or do I remain in Kenya and go through these things? And these things are important for us to think through. So what are the issues that arise in the interplay between social media and judicial independence? Number 1, public's perception of the judiciary will suffer. Social media influencers use conspiratorial narratives such as judicial capture, judicial corruption to influence voters and the court's decision. Such narratives impact greatly on the image of the court by the general public. The administration of justice will suffer if as soon as I walk out of court they say, Huyoni corrupt, Huyoni captured, Huyoni. We cannot afford to have the administration of justice suffer. Truth be said, if the judiciary of Kenya were to collapse today, believe you me, the state will ultimately have to collapse. Because the judiciary of Kenya, even if you don't agree with me, I will still say it, has stood firm in the face of incredible pressure from all sources, including from civil society. And I think we need to be grateful for that. Number 2, amplification of judicial opinion and judicial pressure. When I joined the judiciary in 2003, we were completely insulated from public opinion because we didn't have all these things that were now happening. And so we're able to maintain impartiality. But now we find ourselves, not a bad thing by the way, we are now finding ourselves subjected to intense scrutiny and criticism on social media platforms. Some is true, but some is outright lies. After 2017, I woke up one morning to the very interesting news that I own a 15,000-acre ranch in Laikipia. I wish I have such a ranch. I would not struggle making speeches at Kempinski. I would go and look after my cow, sit under a tree, and drink a fine cognac. But look at me now. So this amplification has a huge effect on how judges make their decisions. I have over time, because I lead on technology in the judiciary, I follow all social media sites. I receive information from all manner of sources. And I see some judges of the High Court buckling to pressure from social media. And the day judges buckle down to pressure because of populism. So you make popular decisions because you want to be popular on Twitter, you want to be popular on Facebook, you want to be popular, and I'll come to TikTok in a minute. You are not an independent judge. And so people may not know, but the younger judges who have not had the experience, who have not gone through the test of fire and brimstone, they can buckle, and that impacts on judicial independence, and that is wrong. Reputation and career of judges. Social media can play a positive role in shaping the careers and public personas of judges. When I was still popular on social media, I felt very nice. When they say Lenaola is a jurisprudent, Lenaola, when you sit in his court, you really enjoy how he manages his court. Now when they say things about me, I say, is that me or another person they're talking about? But judges who become subject to social media attention, whether for their rulings or personal conduct, may find their reputations significantly impacted by the narrative formed online. Now if you look at my social media page and you see me with Vera Sidika, and I have no problem with a good lady, what do you think of a judge like me now being that, you know what I mean? So sometimes it's important to have a positive attention to judges' careers, give them what is due to them, criticize them properly. Yesterday at Strathmore, and some of you may have seen it, when I spoke at Strathmore University yesterday, I specifically said, we as courts would rather somebody wrote a piece in a newspaper, in a magazine, online, which is reasoned, a critique of a judgment, which we can look at and say, yes, we made a mistake here, how do we reform ourselves? But if you go to this to social media, and there are 2 lines on Twitter where you say, Juripesa, what does that do to the court? What does it do to the public? What have you taught the public? How does it help the administration of justice? But if you write, and Adams is here, if you write a scholarly paper, if you look at the Platform magazine, Nairobi Law Monthly, before it was taken over by my friend, the articles were fantastic, and I read them daily, every month when they came, and some impacted on how I wrote my judgments because, for example, let me give you an example for those who are lawyers. I was in the Constitutional Human Rights Division from 2010 to 2016. And we were the first judges, Late Majanja and Mombingogi, who sat in that division, which was a very hard time for us. It's a new constitution, we have no precedents to follow, but we did a good job in my view. But we also made some mistakes. And one was pointed out to me by a student who wrote in the Platform. And I was very happy that he wrote it so well that I actually looked for him and said, thank you. I must have written this in a moment when I was not myself. But that is the way we should criticize courts, but not ruin careers and reputations. You may know that, for example, Chief Justice Maraga. Chief Justice Maraga served as an advocate, as a judge. We were appointed together as judges in 2003. He became a Chief Justice. We were appointed together to the Supreme Court. The man is retired, but he's having 3 defamation cases in court against my friend Grand Mula. Both are pending before the courts. The Chief Justice has obtained injunctions for Grand Mula not to defame me on social media. Why should we treat our judges like that? Even if you have differences with them. Even in retirement, you follow them. So my point is, let us not ruin careers which have taken time to build. The other point is the social media campaigns and legislative influences. We know that social media can impact across the board. But why don't we use social media to impact on legislation? Why don't we, for example, have a hashtag, appoint IEBC, now, and spread it? those who have opportunity will actually follow it, and they will do something. Why is social media